Casual Academy MMA. Join us as we dive deep into mixed martial arts history for every UFC, WEC, Pride, and Strikeforce event. We'll examine the fights and fighters of the past, reviewing the eras, techniques, and revolutions that made our beloved sport the phenomenon it is today. Without further ado, let's watch the fights.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Casual Academy. My name is Nathan Karimi, and I'm joined as always by my cousin and co-host.
I'm Kevin Zimbelman.
So guys, we're going to hop right back into the MMA time machine, and we are headed back now to UFC 2, March 11th, 1994. The setting has remained the same. I guess the only city crazy enough to legally sanction human cockfighting in Denver, Colorado. What jumped out to you about UFC 2?
The first thing that I kind of noticed was the fighters seemed to be better than UFC 1. I felt like they were more credentialed and a lot of more variance too, a little bit, you know? I felt like last time they actually had just like complete brawlers, but this time we had a little intricate kickboxing on one of the fights, you know? And the other thing they brought was a good commentator too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That
guy was the MVP, bro. He's star of the show.
Yeah, well, I have no clue what this guy's name was, but he looks exactly like MacGruber from Saturday Night Live with this ridiculous, absurd hairpiece. But he was like very advanced. He was like felt like a 2007 commentator.
Yeah. He was given like pretty good play-by-play, and they asked him. They were like, "What's going on here?" And he would explain it pretty well.
Yeah, and when he didn't know, he just deflected.
Yeah, he did.
They went in depth on like every single fighting style.
Oh, yes, dude, that like montage of like what these fighting styles were. Yeah, that was very strange.
Yeah, and it's funny because there were certain guys that you're seeing like on these montages and you're just like, that dude's going to be a fucking killer.
Yeah. That black dude, that bald guy.
You know who I was thinking of was that dude with the crazy Fu Manchu.
Oh, the one that really stood out was Exotic.
I
don't know what the fuck Exotic was, but they had this sensual ass music in the background with these like really weird looking dudes, and I don't know. And Exotic got whooped in the fighting style. You know, they showed all these cool highlights.
That
and
was Fu
like,
Manchu.
Yeah. It was like, what are they gonna do? It's like they couldn't do shit.
There was more fights tonight, so let's jump in. Let's jump in right away.
Yeah. Speaking of couldn't do shit, I mean, Minoki Ichihara versus Royce Gracie was the first fight, and as usual, you know, Royce Gracie just dominates everybody effortlessly. But this guy, Ichihara, was like, looked kind of cool in the walkout.
Yeah.
Wore the the gi, just like Royce. And I was like, oh, this might be a good matchup. But it was not.
No, it was terrible.
It was not. And Royce got armbar after about maybe like few minutes into mount.
Yeah, and it was like it was there was really nothing to it. Royce mounted him and then just like dominated, and the guy ended up giving an arm. The guy looked like a legit ass martial artist, but he looked like a martial artist, not a mixed martial artist by any stretch. And he was tiny compared to Royce. So this was like the karate versus grappling matchup.
Yeah. It was, and he was apparently like a legend of Japan in like kickboxing is what they like primed him to be.
Yeah. At one point in time, I was like, this is boring.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. This fight was like longer than all of Royce's fights in the first tournament. I thought that was interesting.
And it was the longest fight of the night that we saw.
Yeah, it definitely was.
What do we got next?
The second fight is Patrick Smith versus Scott Morris. And Patrick Smith is a kickboxer. You know, he's 6'2", 220 pounds. And then we got Scott Morris, who's 6 foot, 208. And Scott Morris is the exotic fighter who got fucking mollywopped. Yeah. And I'm trying to think. Patrick Smith, he just got the top mount. And, oh, dude, those elbows were just the most brutal shit on the whole card.
This is like one of the reasons we're fucking even doing this show is like this was absurd.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Huge takeaway from the night in general watching these fights. Big John McCarthy he wasn't even working.
Bro, it's like there was no ref.
Patrick Smith, by the way, this is his second he was in UFC
Yeah,
the
he was
first
in
one.
UFC 1, and he got heel hooked by Ken Shamrock.
By Ken Shamrock real quick. And then was out. He came back in. He was cocky as hell. He was like ready to beat everybody. He fixed every, grappling mistake that he could possibly imagine in 5 months. And, God, this was violent. So what happened was this exotic Scott Morris goes in for the takedown, kind of bear hugs him. Patrick Smith just falls on top of him in full high mount and just starts blasting him with punches. And then these elbows. By the first elbow, he was out and he threw like 3 more.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I'm so unbelievably shocked how John McCarthy didn't step in on that earlier. Because, dude, his face was split open after those elbows.
It was disgusting. And he was stumbling all over the ring. He couldn't get up.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, that's insane.
Oh,
you could just tell Patrick Smith was like out for blood after losing, last time. And he was as confident as he can be.
Yeah, and I mean, he dominated this guy. And Exotic Scott Smith was the...
Exotic Scott Smith.
Exotic Scott Smith was the one with that sweet calf
Morris.
slicer. Exotic Scott Morris was the one with that sweet calf slicer rear naked choke from hell.
Yeah.
And he just didn't... I think what happened was tonight he just did not get to showcase the full exotic...
He got one move and he just couldn't do it.
One move couldn't pull up.
So fight number 3, we have Johnny Rhodes versus Fred Edish, and it's karate versus karate. Fred is 6 foot, 180 pounds, and he's a 5th degree black belt, while we have Johnny, who's 6 foot, 210 pounds, and he's a 4th degree black belt.
Okay. Fred Edish was the backup, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So who is it actually pulled out? This guy Haymaker. Couldn't fight.
Who won his fight but couldn't
did.
continue.
Yeah.
So old Fred Edish comes in looking exactly like Uncle Rico from fucking Napoleon Dynamite. And dude, he was confident. Like and they brought up in the broadcast, they're like, he is fresh. He hasn't fought.
Right.
He's not exhausted like the other guy potentially was. He came in just not looking for a fight. He was straight up at karate practice.
He was, man. He was just throwing these little teep kicks or little side kicks while Johnny Rhodes was trying to take his head off.
Yeah. Johnny Rhodes was actually slinging punches. And did you notice he had his hands like all karate'd out like this?
Oh, Fred did, right?
Yeah.
He was trying to karate chop and shit. But no, do you remember those knees that Johnny Rhodes landed on him?
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah, we were like fucking, ugh.
So he landed 5 consecutive knees to the head.
Every one of which would have been illegal in modern UFC.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Those were bad.
Surprised he didn't finish him with the knees.
No, they must not have been that hard. Honestly, this fight really showcased this dude's heart, because I don't think he was going to fucking give up. How did it end?
It ended with him being choked out.
How did he? With what? That bulldog thing?
Yeah, the bulldog choke. Yeah.
Oh, right, because he straight was asleep because he tapped.
Yeah,
and by the second tap, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a pretty sweet submission for a karate guy.
Yeah, that was actually. That. He tapped, and that second tap basically was him falling asleep.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that fight was brutal. Another example of the olden days. What's next?
I'd say is the fight number 4, which is the best example of the olden days or whatever, was just the big weight discrepancy between Orlando Viet, who's 5'10", 170 pounds, Thai boxer, versus Remco Pardel, judo practitioner, 6'4", 260 pounds.
Jesus.
So Orlando's going against a guy who's 100 pounds heavier than him.
We brought this up while we were watching it, but think about this. So this guy is 170 pounds. There's no weigh-ins, which means that he's probably fighting at closer to 155 as a small lightweight,
right,
or a big 145er.
Yeah.
So let's just put this in perspective. This fight is kind of similar. I don't want to be exaggerating here, but this fight is similar to a Shane Carwin or a Brock Lesnar versus Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah. No. I would say so too. That's about 100 pounds, 110 pounds difference.
And it looked absurd on screen too.
Yeah, I mean, poor Orlando Viet couldn't really do anything. Pardel got that side saddle and just threw he was in the side saddle, and I was like, I'm surprised he's not throwing elbows. And as soon as boom, 2 elbows put poor Orlando out, man.
Yeah, dude, he was. Oh, that's the guy that was out. And once again, Big John,
Bro, yeah,
not doing his fucking job. That was maybe more egregious than the first one. Well, luckily that big giant just stopped.
Oh, that's right. He did. Yeah, he stopped and recognized that Orlando was like out. Man, I'm surprised John had a job after that.
Honestly,
dude.
Yeah. They say he was like part of writing all the rules and shit. Now, by the way, this was the debut of Big John McCarthy. We didn't see him at the first one at all, right?
No, we did
Was
not.
there a ref in the first? Yeah, it was Keith Peterson. He was fucking. They found Keith Peterson at the bar, hammered texting Dominic Cruz's wife,
right.
And they brought him in for fucking UFC 1. What's next?
That's what they did.
Yeah, exactly. That's why Keith Peterson looks so good at his age. Keith Peterson's like 86.
No, it's not.
What do we got next?
Fight number 5. I guess now the first round of the tournaments is over, and now we're into the semifinals. This would be. Yeah, and we have Jason DeLucia versus Royce Gracie. And we didn't get to see the first Jason DeLucia fight, which was a little unfortunate because he looked kind of good.
Looked good. He was jacked.
Yeah, I mean, he also fought like kind of intelligent too.
You can tell that he was a martial artist of some kind.
Yeah, but once again, Royce Gracie, got that arm bar like pretty effortlessly. And Jason DeLucia was billed as a kung fu guy, but he had some like decent grappling knowledge.
Yeah, like
before it was over.
At one point in time, which it's hard to tell if Royce swept him or did he get the takedown. Like it's really hard to tell because Royce ultimately tapped him out with an arm bar from guard and then rolled it over. No, it wasn't from guard because he pushed him off really intensely.
And
he
then
pushed him off, and when he was pushing him off, he left his arm exposed. Royce took it, and once again, Royce just ignores people tapping.
Yeah, dude, he kind of did.
Everyone seemed to agree that he broke that dude's arm.
Yeah, I mean, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is just king in this shit right now, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
what do we got next?
Fight number 6 was Patrick Smith versus Johnny Rhodes. Patrick Smith, 6'2", 220-pound kickboxer, or karate, I guess, practitioner, versus Johnny Rhodes, who's 6 foot, 210 pounds. They said Patrick Smith had like 66 knockouts or something like that. Patrick Smith actually showed some like decent submission skills. He got a standing guillotine, and he said he was training his grappling after losing to Ken Shamrock. So that was like a little bit of proof of it right there. I don't. That wasn't like one-sided at first. I feel like it was a little 50-50 on the feet until it wasn't.
Yeah, they were throwing back and forth. Once they got into the grappling exchange, Patrick Smith, you could tell, just kind of had that guillotine just queued up, locked it in, and then the guy had no choice. I mean, he was tapping with his feet because he didn't even have an arm available, really. So
yeah. The biggest thing, man, after that fight was just how much of a dickhead interview Patrick Smith gave afterward.
What did he say?
I mean, he said they were like, "Oh yeah, you did it. You did so well out there," and he's like, "Yeah, all the competition's easy."
Oh yeah,
it's like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, it's like, dude, you got fucking smashed last time. Yeah, he was talking a little bit too much. He's a Denver native, so maybe he had kind of a chip on his shoulder with that. But nah, that was it. I was glad to see what happened. Which let's see.
Well,
we still got another semifinal.
Yeah, so then once again, Royce Gracie, but now he's taking on Remco Pardell, who is about 90 pounds heavier.
Yep.
6'4", 260 Remco Pardell.
Yep.
Versus Royce
Another
Gracie.
Basically lightweight, because remember, they're not cutting weight, so 170 pounds is not just a welterweight. Another basically lightweight versus a heavyweight. A big heavyweight.
And on paper, man, you would think like Remco would beat Royce. I mean, he was a judo guy, so he knows like grappling, and you're like, what the hell is Royce gonna do with him?
Yeah.
Thick neck, bro. How you get under that, But Royce used that gi really well he used that to his advantage and submitted Remco again effortlessly.
Yeah, pretty effortless. Like he put work into this one, but I mean, he fucking got on this guy's back, took him down, had his hooks in, was fucking pulling on the gi and everything. Like, honestly, this is just one of those things where you realize, because on top of doing judo, this Remco, what's his name? Remco
Pardell,
who, by the way, had our boy Gerard Jardot. I'm not going to say our boy. Apparently,
yeah, you can't say our boy, dude.
Yeah, guys. Apparently, that guy's kind of a piece of shit. But old fucking what's his name? He was in
Remco Pardell's corner.
In Remco
Gerard
Pardell's
Jardot.
corner. So maybe that would have done something for him to kind of get an idea of how to face Royce Gracie. It really didn't. And I think what it boils down to is that I think that the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is so much more advanced
Yeah, definitely.
than Japanese Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
And that's what this was, because this guy was judo and Jiu-Jitsu, but not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I just think when they get to the actual ground, I think they're just fucking lost.
Yeah.
Okay, so long story short, old Remco had nothing for Royce.
Yeah. You know, Royce kind of went that same approach in every fight. He did that oblique kick to like get the hips, get the back, and that's it. Rinse and repeat.
You know what? You're very right. Like, no, it really was just about getting in.
Mm-hmm.
Not far off from Habib.
Oh, yeah.
Not far
That's
off from a
interesting.
modern Habib.
That's very interesting. I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, Habib would fucking eat Royce Gracie alive on the best day of his life.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I mean,
I would think so too. Yeah.
I don't think, because God love these guys, but jiu-jitsu, if jiu-jitsu advanced from like the early 1900s through like the early 90s, and I think a lot of this can be attributed to the Gracies, but I think it advanced more from 1993 to now.
Oh, definitely.
Than it did over the last.
Yeah, Jim Miller
years.
would submit Royce Gracie. I'm just playing. But I do think these new fighters are way more complex, but you know.
Well, you know what? You might not be wrong, because Matt Hughes, who like obviously was good, but he's still from a different era.
Yeah.
Matt Hughes just dog walked Royce Gracie.
Royce was old too.
Older. Still competitive age of no, because
No, I think
he was like
pushing
40.
40. Yeah. But anyway, on to fight 8, the finals. Patrick Smith versus Royce Gracie, you know, kickboxing versus jiu-jitsu. And the most anticlimactic ending.
This was the worst fucking fight.
It was the worst fight for the final. You know, Patrick Smith came out like gung-ho, you know, in all his fights, ready to just like fuck people up.
Yeah.
He gets to Royce Gracie and just gets obliterated. I mean,
dude, and I was most excited for this too.
I thought Patrick Smith would come at him, give him some pressure.
In all fairness, it was not Patrick Smith's fault that it was anticlimactic.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, of course, a great deal of it was Royce's fault, because Royce did what Royce does.
Right.
They threw in the fucking towel after he got punched in the face like twice.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I could not believe they threw in the towel that early.
But at the end of it, it seemed like Patrick Smith. Royce seems to I don't know. I can't narrate what Royce is saying, but Royce seems to grab everyone by the neck. Again, not dissimilar to Habib. And say shit like, you had no chance, or you better, you need to respect the Gracies now, or like,
that's what you think he's saying?
No matter what. Like, he's saying something to these motherfuckers, because his eyes are wide open and he's like looking into their eye. He's like making sure they're listening.
That would be crazy if he's saying that. I'm thinking he's saying like, oh, good fight, whatever, respect. But who knows?
Yeah.
So
yeah, this event, I'd say the big takeaways to me were, once again, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is just, it's too new.
I wonder how long that's going to last before it gets competitive.
I
I truly don't know.
Dude, what about when they interviewed Ken?
Oh, yeah, that was cool. Yeah, Ken basically cut a little promo talking about he wants Royce in Japan.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm ready for him this time. I wasn't prepared.
Yeah. Ken, and like you said, dude, Ken's just got that, like, it's not that Conor McGregor star power, but he's got that like early 90s star power.
No, for sure. And he looks like he would be like a dickhead, like a bad guy, but he's actually a really
he's
nice
so
guy. So it makes it even better.
Like,
you know?
I love when they asked him last time, they're like,
do you think you could beat everyone else here, Ken? I'm the third best guy.
Like, just so matter of fact.
Yep.
Dude.
And then you got Patrick Smith, like, my competition was easy.
Honestly, Patrick's,
He did kind of walk through everybody until
Patrick Smith sucks. Like basically is what it is.
yeah.
He got mounted like no.
by Royce though, but yeah. I hope they never bring Exotic back. Well, maybe I hope they do, and some guy hits a sick submission. But
Exotic, the martial art, or are we talking about our boy fucking Exotic Rob?
no, the martial art that they showcased.
Yeah, dude. Okay, I'm gonna ask you this, and then we can get into like our awards and shit.
Yeah.
What do you think UFC 3 is gonna look like? I mean, this was like a major evolution until the fight started, and you're like, nope, everyone still fucking doesn't know what they're doing.
I think it's gonna be that for a little bit. I don't think it's gonna get to like a little more intricate to like UFC 10.
Maybe
UFC 10.
I give it about a year.
So give me like
9
a
months.
baseline fighter that you can be like, okay, like a Matt Hughes.
Ooh, that's gonna be later, I think.
Definitely Matt Hughes comes in later, but I'm wondering like, is there?
I'm thinking somebody who would give like a little bit of pushback on the ground game is what I consider an evolution. Right now, there is none of that. Right now, you get it to the ground, it's over. There's never been a reversal, I guess, other than Royce and the UFC 1.
Yeah, you're right, man. It hits the ground and it's over.
That's my evolution point, is when people start to get a little combative on the ground.
And what's crazy too is so when we started watching it, like when we first started, you remember like Tim Sylvia.
Yeah.
I will never forget, and this was later on in Tim Sylvia's career, when he fought Big Nog. And Big Nog was like, I played his game for 23 minutes and he couldn't knock me out.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that quote.
He played my game for 30 seconds and it was over.
Yeah.
That's like the name of the fucking game in these early UFCs.
Yeah.
If you are going to play Royce's game, you are going to lose by Royce's fucking rules.
Yeah, 100%.
So, cool. I'm excited for 3 and 4. I'm excited to see that first person that I'm just like, yo, like Tank Abbott. I'm excited to fucking see.
Yeah, we see. Yeah,
Mark Coleman.
First time. But you want to get into the awards for the night?
Yeah, let's do awards. So we're gonna do fight of the night, knockout of the night, and submission of the night.
Yeah, honestly, I can't think of a fight of the night, man. I feel like, I don't know. There wasn't a lot of there wasn't that brawl like there was in the first fight, you know?
Yeah, let's see what do we got. Now remember, we're only going on the main card. My fight of the night is Johnny Rhodes versus Fred Edish, because it was 2 karate practitioners and you saw the fight get a little bit dynamic. You saw a few punches on the feet, a few kicks on the feet. You saw it get to the ground, and it didn't just end right on the ground because it wasn't Royce versus someone. They scrambled. It's hard to even call it scrambling. They fucking rolled around for a little bit until Fred Edish died.
Yeah. That is the only back and forth, I think, out of any of these fights.
Yeah.
So that would have to be fight of the night.
Yeah, fight of the night by and it's not like these fights were boring necessarily.
No. Well, the last one you could argue because of that horrible stoppage.
The last one and the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, do you agree? Is that the fight of the night?
Yeah, I would give that fight of the night. Knockout of the night is the elbows for sure. I would say that was Patrick Smith
versus Exotic Rob.
Yeah.
Exotic Scott Morris.
Yeah, Scott Morris and Patrick.
Yeah.
Oh man, he decimated his face, dude. That was bad.
Dude, bad enough that I wonder why is this image in this fight not one of those showcased in history?
Yeah, maybe it's too brutal.
His face was cut the fuck up. He looked like half his face was gone.
Yeah, it looked like he got sliced up with a knife, man. It was bad.
It helped that the cameras are terrible, so
that's a good point,
pixelated
dude.
it.
Maybe that's why they don't show the highlight.
Yeah.
But who knows?
We'll show it.
Yeah, we'll show it for sure. You see everything on Casual Academy.
So fight of the night goes to Fred Edish and
Patrick Smith getting knocked out of the night.
Patrick Smith versus Scott Morris gets knocked out of the night, and that's a legit knockout of the night.
That
would have stood out today.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was
cool.
one of the most brutal shit I've probably ever seen in the UFC.
Yep, that's one. As of right now, it is. That's the most dude. That's a cool thing to keep track of. The most brutal. Right now, that was more brutal than that kick.
That is a nice thing to keep track
Ty
of.
Tulia's
Most brutal?
face.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so our most brutal award goes to fucking Patrick Smith,
Like a
just
brutal Hall of
obliterating
Fame.
Scott Morris. Also, the fucking bystander of the year award goes to John McCarthy for just sitting there and watching it.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Who do you got for submission of the night?
To me, that's easy. I thought that was fucking Royce and Jason DeLucia. Jason DeLucia's the kung fu guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was the only one where, to me, it looked like Royce wasn't just, like doing shit that was like, wow, you should have gotten out of that. It was like, wow, they grappled for a minute, and then this guy just couldn't, like, while they were transitioning, Royce just knew where to be and ended it. Simple, armbar.
Oh, that's interesting. You got that for your submission. I got Royce versus, Pardell, the big guy, when he got the gi choke. I thought the gi choke was just kind of unique, so that's why I give it to him.
Yeah. It's just that the mechanics of that gi choke are you're just, like, reaching your hand under and, like, pulling it.
Yeah.
And he did a great job getting him to the ground and shit like that. And I think that the challenge to overcome a fucking 260-pound, 6'4" grappler, like,
Right.
also is huge. But just in terms of, to me, when I think of submission of the night, I think of like aesthetics.
Okay.
And to me, the most exciting submission of the night was still Royce Gracie, but submitting that Jason DeLucia with that arm bar that he did not let go of in time. We got to do it now.
That was it, man. That was UFC 2.
That was UFC 2, and you know what we got to do?
Pound for pound?
We have to get into the pound for pound stuff to cap off the night. UFC 2. Any lingering thoughts before we jump into this?
No, let's just go straight to pound and pound.
Cool. Fun event. At this point, you simply cannot deny that Royce Gracie is in some way relevant as the greatest fighter on earth.
Oh, yeah, 100%. No one has showed any sort of opposition towards him.
Yeah.
And
these are like actual legit martial artists, So I mean, even if they're not these extreme athletes yet, they're still kind of the best they can find at the time. I'm sure there's some historian out there who's like, no, this organization was happening and it was much better. From what we know, it was Royce. Does anybody else stand out on that top 10 list to you?
Man, I want to say maybe Patrick. Was it Patrick Smith? Just because he ran through everybody in UFC 1. Well, I guess he lost to Ken. And then he fucked people up here until he ran into Royce. You're losing to Ken and Royce. That's pretty good company to lose to.
But how do you not go immediately to Ken as number 2 then?
Because he didn't fight in UFC 2.
Oh, right.
But I'm not crazy about that opinion. But if there's anybody else, that's who I would think.
Yeah. Honestly, man, I thought Kevin Rozier was I kind of had him pegged for comeback of the year. No. Okay. So then can we agree that I guess we can't agree because you said this, but for me which we're not going to really release the official top 10 rankings, at least until UFC 5, possibly till UFC 10. But right now, number 1 with, in my opinion, no number 2 or 3, I got Royce Gracie as the number 1 pound for pound right now.
Undoubtedly.
At this point, there's no debate.
Yeah,
it's not.
exactly.
Yeah. So, cool.
But that was UFC 2, We'll see if Royce keeps it going for UFC 3.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to be in Denver again. More elevation,
Yeah, that's crazy.
Who knows?
Dude, I'm so excited. Like, I'm just, a lot of cool shit. And I think UFC 3 is going to be even better. Right on. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Casual Academy. As always, you can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Casual Academy MMA. If you want to follow along, please like and subscribe to our videos. It does help out the channel, and it will also give you those new sweet, sweet tips on fight history. So if you want to hop into the time machine with us, click that bell, baby. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.